What happens when a DM builds an entire world designed to worship his own characters? When every player is forced to change their class, their backstory, and their identity just to fit his vision? When the one thing he cannot control, a relationship between two players, becomes the thing that sends him over the edge? This is the Railroad Saga, and it goes to places you will not see coming. Our storyteller was part of a small Pathfinder group at a local game store. They had been running adventures together for a while, but their regular DM was getting burnt out and wanted to play for a change. One of the guys who hung around the shop overheard the conversation. He said he had experience as a DM and volunteered to run a homebrew campaign. Everyone was excited. New characters, new world, fresh start. What could go wrong? The premise was interesting on paper. A military-style academy in a capital city. Think Ruby crossed with My Hero Academia. The DM even had each player act out their full backstory, which took 1 to 2 hours per person. Everyone got to see where everyone else came from and how they ended up at the academy. It felt collaborative, it felt promising, it was a trap. This is one of the most insidious setups in horror stories. The DM puts in genuine effort at the start. Good ideas, cool mechanics, collaborative backstory sessions. It earns trust, and then he spends that trust on the worst possible things. Before the game even started, the DM held a session 0 where he apologized in advance for stepping on toes. He said he would only do so to advance the plot. Everyone nodded. It sounded reasonable. It was not. Our storyteller played a human barbarian from a mountain tribe just outside the capital. Her coming-of-age ceremony required her to climb into a mountain cave, scar a legendary beast, and return alive. She found the beast already dead. A DM NPC was standing over its corpse. A 20th-level fighter, the crown prince of the kingdom, and one of 5 legendary heroes. The barbarian fought him anyway, because in her culture, if the beast is dead, you fight the one who killed it. She got 1 hit in before being knocked unconscious. When she woke up, her entire village was being held prisoner. The DM NPC offered a deal. He would sponsor her into the academy in exchange for not executing her tribe for unpaid taxes and raiding caravans. She protested. He put his sword to her throat and told her to reconsider. The DM made sure to describe the desperate faces of the villagers in detail. She agreed. Then the DM told her to change her class from barbarian to fighter. Because she would be training under his NPC, he nerfed her stats and made her a watered-down copy of his own creation. And in-game, his NPC was praised for having tamed the wild beast. Almost everyone's backstory followed the same pattern: conscripted, class changed, identity erased, all to serve the DMU's vision. Only one player avoided it, and that was because they were already playing a martial class that fit the DMU's narrative. Read that again. Every player was forced to abandon their character concept, their class, their backstory, all to feed the ego of NPCs that the DM created to worship himself. This is not world building. This is a man building a mirror and forcing everyone else to hold it up for him. Before the campaign started, the DM apologized in advance for stepping on toes, claiming it was necessary to advance the plot. What he failed to mention was just how miserable the world actually was. If you were anything other than human, you were treated as a second-class citizen. If you played a female character, you would face constant harassment. If you were a magic user, good luck finding spell components, because those were reserved exclusively for the DMU's NPCs. If you played anything other than a martial class, you were called weak and cowardly. Constantly. The entire campaign was a love letter to his Mary Sue NPCs. They were always right, always justified, always invincible. Anyone who questioned them was either cartoonishly evil or dismissed as a naive rookie. A typical session went like this. The players go on a training mission. They get into combat. The DM suddenly decides that whatever they were fighting stops losing and gains impossible armor class and resistances. One of his NPCs shows up with a smug one-liner. "I would have let you handle it, but you were taking too long. You guys still have a long way to go." Every single session, the players tolerated it because the social dynamic was comfortable. The shop was their meeting place, and changing DMS felt like admitting defeat. Classic sunk cost fallacy. They kept waiting for it to get better. It did not get better. It got incomprehensibly worse. There is a name for what this DM was doing. It is called railroading, and this is the most extreme version of it. The players are not participants, they are props, background characters in someone else's power fantasy. But here is the thing about power fantasies: they only work when you control everything. And the DM was about to discover one thing he could not control. From almost the beginning of the campaign, the storyteller's barbarian and the party sorcerer had a flirty, antagonistic dynamic that slowly developed into something real. It became an open secret that their characters were in a relationship. Fast forward to level 10, graduation ceremony, a team-based tournament where the D-Muzz NPCs actually stayed out of it for once. The party won the whole thing, and in the middle of the celebrating crowd, the barbarian and the sorcerer kissed for the first time, publicly, in the ring. The next day in game, they were called before the king to receive special commendations for winning the tournament. Standard stuff. The king congratulated them, praised the group, called the two women forward, and then chastised them. Not for kissing, for being a same-sex couple, which was apparently illegal in the kingdom. The king offered a deal: repent, renounce the relationship. He would call it youthful ignorance and move on. They refused. The session ended on a cliffhanger with the king about to unleash his royal guards. Here is the moment where the storyteller made a critical mistake, but an understandable one. She got excited. She thought this was the plot twist that redeemed the entire campaign, that the DM had deliberately made his NPCs and his kingdom hateable so the players would rise up and start a revolution. She thought he was a secret genius. She spent a week thinking about how they would become outlaws, start a rebellion, challenge the status quo. She imagined this was the payoff for months of frustration. She was wrong, so completely, devastatingly wrong. They came back to the table ready for revolution. The king gave his final warning. The players tossed their graduation pins in defiance and held hands, planning to teleport away. The group had agreed beforehand to run, get to the party, teleport as far outside the capital as possible. They lost initiative, and what followed was the most blatant abuse of DM power in any story we have covered. The king, DM NPC Prime himself, used power word stun on all of them simultaneously. No saving throw, no regard for the fact that the spell can only target one creature, just instant defeat. The guards seized everyone. What happened next is the worst part of this story by far. The barbarian and the sorcerer were stripped and dragged to the center of town. They were placed in magical stocks that suppressed their abilities and would only open when they repented and renounced their relationship. The public was told of their sins, and then they were declared free for public use by any man of age. The rest of the party was forced to watch. They were told that unless they disavowed their friends, they would be executed on the spot. Every party member refused. They called out what was happening. They tried to win over the crowd. The crowd booed, threw fruit, and then the king power word killed them all, instantly. The storyteller sat there glaring at the DM. She said, "What the actual fuck?" He got defensive. He said he gave them every opportunity to back out. If they did not like lying in the bed they made, that was too bad. He ended the session by narrating the aftermath. They gave in after a week. The sorcerer was sold to a brothel. The barbarian was taken as a concubine by the DM NPC who had conscripted her into the academy years ago. The same NPC who put a sword to her throat in session 1. The same NPC who was praised for taming the wild beast. The circle was complete. The barbarian was a trophy from beginning to end. Let us be absolutely clear about what happened here. A DM used his position to punish players for not engaging in the romantic subplot he wanted with his NPC when the storyteller chose to be with someone else. He retaliated by writing a scenario designed to degrade, humiliate, and sexually assault her character. Then he forced her to watch. This is not storytelling. This is not realism. This is a person using a game as a weapon. And the fact that he had the audacity to call them snowflakes afterward tells you everything you need to know about his character. A few hours after packing up and storming out, the DM was in the group chat defending himself. The group told him he was not welcome anymore. He called them snowflakes who could not handle a realistic story. Then he started messaging the storyteller directly. He said it was bullshit that he had approached her multiple times about doing a romance subplot with his NPC, and she had turned him down but then went with someone else. Let that sink in. He admitted it. The entire punishment arc was personal. It was not about the story. It was about a rejected romance subplot with a character he created to represent himself. After about a week he changed his tune. He apologized, said he was going through a hard time and took it out on them, asked to be let back in. They told him to fuck off. He went to the store owner and complained about being excluded. The store owner told him he could not force people to play with him. After that he showed up at the store less and less, but whenever he did and the group was nearby, he would mumble under his breath. Not loud enough to confront, just loud enough to hear. The passive aggression of someone who knows they lost but refuses to admit it. The last anyone heard of him, he was in trouble for stabbing his father in the head with a pen during an argument, which somehow makes perfect sense for a person whose response to rejection was to escalate to violence. Outro. And that is the Railroad Saga. A DM who built a world designed to worship himself, forced every player to abandon their identity to serve his vision, and when one player chose to love someone other than his precious NPC, he burned it all down in the most disgusting way possible. The saddest part is that there were genuinely good ideas buried in this campaign: the academy setting, the backstory sessions, the graduation tournament. In the hands of a decent human being, this could have been a memorable campaign for the right reasons. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about what happens when someone confuses being a dungeon master with being a god, because gods do not need validation from the people at their table. But this DM did, and when he did not get it, he punished everyone who said no. Some campaigns end with epic battles, some end with tearful goodbyes. This one ended with a pen to the head and a lifetime ban from the game store.